Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation with me, your host, Owen, the channel that brings you your team every single day for free, for nothing. All you've got to do is hit that sub, ring that notification bell. We don't charge you like some other chat podcasts do for any content. Well, guys, let's obviously reflect on the fact that it is match day today. Rangers taking on Aberdeen at 3 o'clock at Ibrox. A game that will no doubt be full of needle, of edge, and a game where, let's face it, is very important to Aberdeen. We all know that Aberdeen treat us as their Champions League final, and when they play anyone else, it's not. They don't really put the effort in that they do against us. They cheat their own fans, really. Anyway, Michael Beale has been talking to the media today. He reflected on a number of different topics. He talked about Kamar Roofe, about Ben Davies. He talked about the injury problems that we're currently having and how far those players are away from returning from injury. I mean, we'll talk about Kamar Roofe in a minute and the situation with him. Obviously, Nicholas Raskin and Kieran Dowell are apparently the closest to returning, but will not be available for the Aberdeen game this coming weekend. They're still a few weeks away, apparently. Cantwell, Lawrence, Matondo, obviously, all still out until, Matondo 6 weeks. Cantwell and Lawrence, it's apparently after the international break that they may be ready to play again, and it's only may be ready to play again. At the moment, I think when it comes to injuries, Rangers seem to be unable to kind of, I don't know, pin down return dates and stick to them. They seem to have a situation where there is an accurate assessment of the length of time the players will be out with certain injuries. So we've got to take everything they say with a slight pinch of salt when it comes to players returning from injury. Now, we all knew that eventually, I guess, it was going to happen. But Kamar Roofe is out injured. Yes, Mr. Glass himself, the man who started the season so well, and it was hoped that maybe this hip operation that he had finally sorted him out, and we'd have a new fit, raring to go Kamar Roofe. However, he was taken off on Wednesday night at half time with a groin problem. Unfortunately, he is injured. Now, Michael Beale said today that Kamar was off for a scan and he couldn't comment on the length of time Kamar would be out for until the scan results came back. It's a bad thing for Rangers. It certainly is. There's the Kamar Roofe situation. There's two schools of thought on the old Kamar Roofe situation. Obviously, there's this school of thought that says that he's always injured, that he's unreliable, that yes, he has played well since he's come back into the team, but once again, we knew eventually this injury bug that seems to haunt him would come back and get him again, and seemingly it has. Obviously, no scan results yet. We don't know the severity of the injury. It might be a minor one. It could be a major one. We don't really know yet. But Kamar Roofe is a very fine player. You've only got to look at his performances since he's come back into the team. Yes, he hasn't perhaps scored the goals yet, but I think he's very unlucky not to have had at least a couple more goals. With goals unfortunately disallowed by some very bad VAR decisions. Roofe, got some criticism unfairly, I think, on Wednesday night from some of the fans who really didn't understand the game. I really don't understand the game and don't understand what he was doing. He was dropping back into midfield. He was making up the extra man. He was linking play. Yes, he wasn't playing straightly through the middle, but he was acting as a link-up guy between the midfield and the attack, which is probably what he was asked to do by Michael Beale. That's not his fault. That's clearly what he was asked to do. Roofe is, without a shadow of doubt, the best finisher at the club. And I think it's unfortunate that he will now be out. It's unfortunate that we couldn't obviously get him to have the opportunities to score a few more goals in the games that he's played. I think I get a lot of slaughtering for criticising Cyril Dessers from the Cyril Dessers fan club. But, one of the things that keeps getting to me is he doesn't get the service. Well, does that not equally apply to Kamar Roofe? Does that not equally apply that the service is not there? When he's had service, he's scored goals. And, some of those goals, yes, have been disallowed for dodgy VAR decisions. So I think, you can't argue one without arguing the other. So for me, it's a bad thing that Kamar is out. It's a sad state of affairs, and I certainly hope this is not a serious injury, and Kamar will be back sooner rather than later. Especially, obviously, given the fact that Danilo is still out. Interesting that interesting comments about Danilo, that Michael Beale said that that Danilo had not spoken to the consultant yet, that he's not ready to return yet. whereas Danilo put out on social media with nearly there. So, in terms of Danilo's thoughts, seemed to be that he'd be ready sooner rather than later, which was not really what Michael Beale actually said. So, interesting comments nonetheless, but certainly very sad news on Kamar Roof. And we certainly wish Kamar a speedy recovery and hope that he is fit and good to go soon. Now, one of the topics that was discussed by Michael Beale in his press conference, which was actually brought up by the journalist in attendance, was the form and the return to the team of Ben Davies. Ben Davies is someone who was widely criticised by Rangers fans last season, particularly after his display against Celtic, where he made, fundamental mistakes. Davies seemingly though has come back a better, stronger player because of that criticism. I would venture to guess. I'm sure that as much as players say they don't listen to it, they will be aware that it's going on. They will be aware of what is being said about them. Now, one of the things that was asked of Michael Beale was the discussion around whether Ben Davies was on his way in the summer. Michael Beale stated in the press conference that there was never any intention to sell Ben Davies, and that the desire to sign another left centre back was basically as backup for Ben Davies in case he got injured. It seemed from Michael Beale's comments today as well that he was kind of ruling out John Souttar returning to the team. He talked very much about the balance that Ben Davies brought. How we had loads of obviously had wins and clean sheets since Davies has returned to the team, and how he had a particularly fine performance over the last couple of games. It certainly seems that Davies has come back in, has taken his opportunity, and is settling in well. And I've seen an improvement in Davies. I really have. At the end of the day, the defense has a much better balance to it when Davies is there. John Souttar is a good player, don't get me wrong, and I think he is perhaps a future right side centre back for Rangers. Connor Goldson is not getting any younger, but Ben Davies is, a left-sided centre back because he is left-footed. He brings that natural balance. He brings that natural positional talent. He reads the game well from there. So look, so far so good for Davies since he's come back from injury. Michael Beale was asked about why he hadn't played at the start of the season, and he said it was obviously about fitness and getting back to fitness, nothing else. Even though the media obviously were talking about the fact that he'd been left out because he'd been told to go and find another club, which Michael Beale said was utter rubbish. Michael Beale also praised Abdallah Sea as well. He talked about the fact that, in the game against Livingston and in recent games, Sea has performed very well indeed. He said his running has been very direct, it's pacey, he's often a threat in behind. He's obviously scored goals, created goals, and he's probably, in terms of goals scored, probably been out of all the new signings, been the most successful in terms of goals scores. I think it's 5 he's got now, which is, a great deal more than obviously Danilo and Dessers and Lammers. But for me, Seema is a quality. He's got quality, and I think we just need to keep on giving him his opportunity. I think part of the problem with him at the start of the season was he lacked confidence. He lacked an awareness of what it is to play for Rangers and how he was needed to play in this team. I think he's learned that more. He's more ready and willing to go, and I think he's more in a position where he can influence games and he can cause a lot more damage to teams. He certainly presents, in the case with obviously with Rabbi Matondo being out, that pace, that directness that Matondo brought, that Sakala to some extent brought last season. So, look, Abdallah Seema has done well in recent weeks. He scored goals. He's playing well. Seema for me has to start against Aberdeen on Saturday, which is today. Obviously, I'd love to see Seema get an opportunity to play. Where he plays, I don't know. I do think the front three will be Lammers, unfortunately, Dessers and Seema. These guys are obviously the only really 3 fit forwards left with the injuries to the other players. With injuries to Lawrence and Matondo and Danilo and Roofe, for example. So, look, at the end of the day, Seema's done very well recently. He's really sort of stepped up his level. He's growing in confidence, and I think that's part of the issue. I think he was lacking in confidence. Now, some people have suggested perhaps even a change of system against Aberdeen. After what they saw on Wednesday night, and certainly Michael Beale talking about getting Dujon Sterling in the team at some point. It's been talked about that maybe, just maybe, Tav will be pushed up a line, and Sterling will fill in at right back. That Tav will be used as a right winger. Certainly Tav is very good going forward. His crosses are good. His assists are there. He can score goals. some people feel that he would actually make a better winger stroke wing back anyway than a defender, because it's his defensive skills that sometimes let him down and lead to him getting criticism from people. So, it is a discussion that seems to be having now. Whether that, obviously, Michael Beale wasn't asked about this. He didn't really discuss this, but it could be a possible option. At some point, either tomorrow, or sorry, not tomorrow, today, or in the future, that Tav gets moved up a line, Sterling plays at right back. Sterling is a very solid defender, and having Tav in front of him would certainly give him the person to play it forward to, who could bring that forward threat. So, very interesting one indeed. A debate as well over who should be the starting left back against Aberdeen. The two characters that are obviously in this debate are Ridvan Yilmaz, who scored a fabulous goal on Wednesday against Livingston, and the manager's favourite, Mr. Borna Barisic. Look, with Borna been in the European squad and Ridvan not been in the European squad, for me, Ridvan has to start if fit. And he looks fit. He trained yesterday. If he is fit, I would start Ridvan in all the league games. He's a better left back than Borna. His defensive skills are better. He offers a lot more going forward. Borna does cross the ball well, but if you look at Borna's crossing statistics, he might smash the ball in about 28, 30 times a game, but one might be effective. Whereas Ridvan, I think, just presents something more, a directness, an ability to get to the line, the byline, to pull it back, or even to cross from just outside the box. He just presents a little bit more. He has a directness. He's quick. He's skillful. He's a lot quicker than Barisic. For me, Ridvan Yilmaz is the answer at left back, and I certainly hope that Michael Beale will persist with Borna Barisic. Not with Borna Barisic, with Ridvan Yilmaz at left back, and then obviously we've got Borna to use in the European games. Well, guys, let me know what your stories you've covered in this match day in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you, and I always try and respond to you when I get around to it, when I get time. It's fitting in with a busy working life and a busy family life, obviously. Keep looking out for videos, and if you want to make sure you never miss out, the best way to do it is to hit that sub and ring that notification bell. Thanks for watching. Two things I always need you to do. Number one, smash the like, and number two, remember, we are the people.